Hi everyone, John here, welcome back. Mocha Pro 2024 came out recently and the new camera solver really caught my eye. As soon as it came out, I jumped into After Effects and I experimented with different kinds of looks, specifically using text and 3D text on different kinds of shots to see how the camera solver worked and also how it stacked up against things like the After Effects 3D tracker and also the Blender 3D tracker. So I've developed a few different looks and today we're going to break down the first one of those. That's this look. And this was tracked using the 3D camera solver in Mocha Pro, and I've used a few sapphire effects in here as well. Plus a few little tips and tricks on how to get around some of the limitations of the advanced renderer in After Effects. So let's break this down. Now the first thing I want to do is talk about the new Mocha Pro camera solver, but I'm not going to go step by step because this is a breakdown. And also Ben Brownlee from Boris Effects, our one and only, has also done tutorials for this and he's gone into a lot more depth. So you can definitely check out his tutorials on YouTube. There's one on match moves, there's one using Power Mesh, and also 3D tracking here using Mocha Pro and After Effects. So definitely check those out too. All right, so here in After Effects, I've got my main comp. Inside there is a composition called Blur. And here is where I've done all of the rack defocus. We'll talk about that little trick in a minute. And inside that is my track composition. So this is where I've done the 3D camera solve. I'm just going to turn on the footage so we can see that. And with that layer selected, click on Mocha to launch Mocha Pro. Now, like I said, this isn't a step-by-step, but I'll just do a bit of review, especially for those of you who've already watched Ben's tutorials. And if you haven't, please go ahead and watch those. First thing I want to do is click on 3D. And now you can see there's my tracking points that were created when I did the camera solve. And I'm going to click on the camera solve tab. And generally, you'll open up a piece of footage inside of Mocha Pro and you'll click on solve. That's all you have to do. And that's mostly what I've had to do. One thing I did do though, and this is one of the strengths of the Mocha Pro camera solver, is I've just masked out the background just to allow the camera solver to focus only on this chopping board and everything in front of it. And to do that, you can see up here, I've got this background spline here. And let's just go to our track and you can see it there. See that spline there? I'm going to give myself a bit of space here if I can. Just going to roll my mouse wheel. And you can see I've just tracked that. Well, in this case, I didn't actually do a track. I just set a few keyframes just to mask out that background. And then over in the camera solve tab, I've just clicked on this button here just to use this as a mask. So that means that the camera solver is not going to pay any attention to that area when it's setting up the track points, when it's doing the solve. And I did get a better average error rate when I did that as well. I just was able to get a more precise track with this. So that's great to be able to limit the area of the camera solve using splines. And once that was solved, just coming in and just going to turn on the ground plane, you can see I've set my origin to this point here, and that's just by clicking on Make Origin. And selecting the ground plane is as simple as just selecting a few of the tracking markers that are on the ground, or what you want to be the ground, and clicking Align to Ground. You can see it just rotated it slightly, and that actually looks pretty good, but I felt that it was just maybe slightly at an angle. So to adjust that, I just selected Scene Transform and adjusted the Y rotation. Just drag that a little bit like that. And for someone like me who's not particularly math oriented, this was really easy. It was really just a few button clicks and I got a terrific result that I didn't have to go back and redo. So very, very happy with that. So once I had all that set up, all I did was select the various markers that I wanted to add text to. So this one here, any of the pink ones, just coming down and selecting these in the list like that. And then clicking on Export Camera Data choosing the After Effects 3D motion data option, clicking selected, and clicking copy to clipboard. Now you do get a message saying you need the Mocha 3D track importer plugin. You need to download that. It's pretty straightforward once that's in. I'm just going to click on Don't Show Again and click OK. So with all of that, I'm just going to close that. Come up to the Edit menu and choose Paste Mocha Camera. And when I did that, I got my Mocha camera in the scene here, and I also got my various tracking markers that I'd selected. So if you're like me and you find 3D camera solving maybe a little bit intimidating, you're going to love using Mocha Pro's camera solver. It's easy to use, and importantly for me, it's easy to remember how to use it. If I don't use it for a while, I can come back, and it's just a couple of steps and very easy to remember how to do that. Now, the feature of this look is the 3D text, this fresh. So this could be the name of a show or the name of a product, and it's in 3D. And you can see the color is really matching the environment. And that's because this is using the advanced 3D renderer in After Effects. And it's actually using an HDRI to light the text. And that can make the text look really good. But using the advanced 3D renderer does have limitations. So what I want to do now is talk a little bit about the benefits and the limitations of choosing to use the advanced 3D renderer in this scene. So as I just mentioned, one benefit is being able to light using an HDRI. And how did I get an HDR from this stock footage? Well, of course, I looked on YouTube, and I'm just going to whip across to Photoshop and just talk a little bit about this. I'm not going to walk through this step by step, but it's actually quite easy to create an HDR from a still image. If you come to the Automate menu and choose Merge to HDR Pro, all you have to do is have a couple of files, and one of them, you have to set this up manually. I created two versions of a still image from my footage, and I've saved those. Let me just browse for those. And I've named one high and one low. Just going to open those and click OK. So what this script is going to do, it's going to take the high exposure version, and to create the exposure change, I just used a exposure adjustment layer and resaved that file. And it gives you this dialog box, and you can set your exposure time and all of this stuff. All I did was sort of click the arrows. I'm not interested in being really precise with this. All I wanted to do was get the HDRI format so that I could bring it into After Effects and use the general color to and contrast to light the scene. Once I got the OK button, clicked OK, and this looks a little blown out, but the one I created wasn't particularly blown out. You can make adjustments here. All I did was click OK and just make sure this was 32-bit. So coming up to my image mode, 32-bit, and that gives me the option to save this as, so File, Save As, Radiance HDR. And that's all I did. So like I said, I didn't really focus on the intricacies of HDR. I just wanted that file format so I could use it for lighting my particular text. So I'm going to cancel that and come back to After Effects. And you can see it's pretty effective. Let's have a look at this here. This is an environment light. If I double click that, you've obviously got different light choices. By choosing environment, it's fairly limited light as far as options go. You can see under here I've chosen source HDR2. That's the name of the file that I didn't really give it a very good name, did I? But it is a .hdri file or .hdr file. And it's just down here. Here it is here. So that's the HDR that I exported from Photoshop. So with that environment light and choosing that HDR, I get a pretty effective look on this text. If we come down to the text, and it's this one here, just going to twirl that open, you can see specular shininess is set to 85. If I bring that up to 100, you can see how we get full reflection here. So it is actually reflecting the HDR. I guess the thing to keep in mind here is this is not a full 360 HDR. So there would definitely be a seam in there somewhere, but it hasn't really caused a problem for me. And also I'm not using a full reflection. I've only got this on 85. So it's just very effectively giving me the color of the surrounding objects. And that's all I wanted really. And some also, of course, some nice, reflection. So it gives us a nice metal look. You can see, what else have I got here? Let me just select that and press U twice. I have actually just added an animator to change the front color. If I just turn that off, you can see that's the color that I was getting. So just by coming up to animate and choosing front color, RGB, and then just changing that color slightly, I was able to sort of darken that down. And it just helps the text pop out a little bit. And also I've changed the front specular shininess as well. Just give it a little bit more shininess in the spec. Looks a bit dull without that, but up at 100 it makes it a little bit brighter in the specular. So by using the advanced 3D renderer, that allowed me to use the HDRI or the HDR file and light that really quite effectively. That would have been much more difficult to light and get looking right in this scene if I had to use the normal lights in After Effects. Now, speaking of normal lights, I did actually use a couple of parallel lights. So let me just turn that one off. And there you go. So I've got one that's just lighting the sides. So this is at the back of the text. And I've got one, let me just turn that one on, that's just making those bevels just pop out a little bit better. If we bring that one back on, so there's the text. Let me just come in a look closer here. There's the text without those parallel lights. Let's turn on the side one. So there you go. So I'm just imagining there's this, it's being lit by this light up the top here. So a bit of this light is actually lighting it's being caught in the sides of the text. And this one is just going to make the bevels just pop out. See that? So the HDR environment light gets us most of the way there, but it's nice to really sculpt a little bit more with light using parallel lights. If we have a look in two views, you can see them here. Let me just select both of those. There they are. If I just hold down the Alt key, I can just move around that scene. And there's those two parallel lights. Have a look at it from the top maybe. There we go there. So there's the one in the back and there's the one in the front. Come back to one view there. So that's the 3D text, but notice there's also a shadow being cast by that text. And this is one of the limitations of using the advanced 3D renderer. The advanced 3D renderer doesn't currently support shadow catching, whereas a classic renderer does. So you have to make a compromise. Either go classic and get shadow catching, but you're not able to use HDRs and light with HDR environment lights, or go advanced and lose the ability to have a shadow catcher. So until After Effects is improved and you can do everything in the advanced renderer, you have to make a choice. So I decided to go with HDR because I thought that was really important. And I faked my shadow. All I did was I used a unextruded version of the text here, shadow, and I've just rotated it in 3D space. So just rotated it flat, and you can see, let me just turn off that HDR. You can see that it's sitting perfectly, it's rock solid. It's obviously a little bit sharp, but we fix that in the blur comp. And that's how I faked it. Now, if I use the same font as I used for this text, then the shadow was a little thin. You can see how it's been extruded, and so that makes it look a little thicker. So the shadow would look a little thicker. So to get around that, I just used a bolder version of the text, of the font. So this is a medium, and this one's a light version. So just by using a slightly heavier font, I kind of faked that thickness that you'd see from this sort of backlight lighting this text and pushing the shadow forward, or projecting the shadow forward. So a little bit of a fake there. And of course, you can see the shadow in front of the leaf here. And this is a radish, I think. And this has been fixed in the next comp by using Mocha Pro to mask these out. Now, the only other thing I did in this particular composition is just to add this other text and these shape layer elements. So this is where I use these feature point tracks as well. And I've used individual feature points for these. Let's take a look at maybe avocado. So there's my feature point, and I've got my text in 3D, and I've got my shape layer. So all I did was I selected the text, made it 3D, then just held down the Shift key, and then just parented it to the feature point. You can see that actually pushes that right onto that feature point because it's now parented to it. And to get the text into place, just by hitting A and then just adjusting the anchor point. Because obviously when I create text, it's going to be right in the center of the comp. So I just made that 3D, Shift parent it just to snap it to the particular tracking point, and then just adjust the position using the anchor point controls. And the shape layer, I did exactly the same thing. Shape layer is very straightforward. This is just a stroke. You see, just a simple stroke here. I just select that. I can adjust that. I could animate it if I want to. And I've also added a ellipse path as well to that. And I've added a stroke just by coming up and choosing Add Stroke at the bottom so that both of them have the same stroke. Just some basic shape layer things there. And once again, Shift parenting and then just using anchor point to move it into position. And that's what I did for each of these. All right, so the second limitation I had to overcome with the advanced renderer in After Effects is depth of field. The advanced renderer doesn't support depth of field with the After Effects camera yet, so it wasn't a huge deal because Sapphire came to the rescue with the excellent rack defocus effect. So I still thought that the HDR lighting was, the number one thing I really needed. So I created a workaround. Let's take a look. Just going to turn off this and come into my blur comp. And here I've used a range of different adjustment layers with Sapphire's rack defocus effect. So the first one is this fresh text. You can see there's a mask on it. If I just drag the current time indicator, you can see how I've animated that mask. So that adjustment layer just affects that fresh text. So a little bit of mask keyframing here, which was, a minor hassle. And I've also animated the defocus width. So obviously when it's closer to the camera, it's more out of focus. And as it moves back, it comes into focus. So I've tried to match the original footage as much as possible. And the rest of it is exactly the same. So with the shadow, just turn that on. You can see it's a little blurrier at the start and it gets even blurrier as it gets further back. And the text, strawberry, Ave lemon, and bok choy. Bok choy has its own, but I decided to put these three all together because they're kind of on the same plane. So I didn't think that was a huge issue, just having a mask that encapsulated all three of those. but bok choy is a little further away on Z, so I've just given it a separate mask and separate rack defocus settings. All faked, but definitely effective. If I just turn them off, it's way too sharp. And of course, it won't match the footage that the text is on top of. So if we have a look at all the layers and just press U to see the keyframes, a little bit of keyframing in there. So it did take a few minutes to set that up, but that's just, having to work around a limitation of the advanced renderer. All right, so the only other things that we have to talk about here are, of course, the vegetables and the leaves that cover up the shadow. So if we just come into Mocha Pro, and you can already see the splines there. This is just sort of classic Mocha Pro tracking. What I've done here is I've done a leaf track. So just a bigger mask, just very rough around the leaf, and I've tracked that just by using translation, scale, and rotation in this case. And once I had that tracked in, then I created my nice defined leaf spline and I linked it to the leaf track. So one of the great powers of Mocha and Mocha Pro is being able to link your splines to tracks. It just makes rotoscoping so much faster. You can see how that's locking pretty well into place, and I've got a couple of extra keyframes just to adjust it as it moves further into the distance. Super easy and super fast. And I've got one for the radish, just down here. A few more keyframes on that one. And I've got one for this piece of cucumber as well. Cucumber, and there's my radish. Very straightforward. Just going to close that up, not save. And of course in After Effects, just applying the matte. If we just solo that, if I turn off apply matte, you can see there's the footage. Apply that matte, and there we go. So that sits on top of the text and hides the shadow. And a little bit of the fresh 3D text as well. And the very, very last thing I did for this is just use Sapphire's film effect. And I really like film effect when I want to do a super quick and simple grade. Just use that as an adjustment layer and basically left these at pretty much the default settings. Just to give that a bit of contrast and just make the color a little richer. You can see how that rack defocus is really helping with this as well. You can see how the fresh text is now a little blurred, matching the footage a little better. And at the moment, this area of the shot on Z is in focus and this is out of focus. Not much fun having to use workarounds when you're using the advanced 3D renderer. I'm hoping that shadow catching and depth of field will be included in a future version. But overall looking pretty good. Now, it wouldn't be fair to talk about the Mocha Pro 3D solver in After Effects and not mention that After Effects also has its own 3D camera tracking. And I really wanted to explore it a little bit more. I've used the After Effects camera tracker in the past. I wanted to do a little bit of a comparison and work out, what was better and what was worse in each one. And for this particular shot, you could very well have just used the After Effects 3D tracker. I actually gave it a go. And here it is here. You can see I've just thrown some text in, and out of the box, it gave me a pretty good track. And I think one of the advantages of using the After Effects 3D tracker, if there was an advantage, is that if I just select the effect, you can click on any track point and you can choose to create text, just like that. So you saw how I used the 3D solving tracking markers from Mocha Pro and I shift parented. So that's a pretty easy workflow, but this is just slightly easier because I can just click on whatever object and I can create text or create a null, create a solid. So definitely the 3D tracker works well with this shot. In the next shot we're going to look at, things are a little different. We're going to be tracking a shot with a lot of water. And I actually tried both the Mocha camera solver and the After Effects 3D tracker, and Mocha definitely worked better for that particular shot. So join me in the next tutorial where we'll have a further look at the Mocha 3D tracking and how to use it in After Effects. So thanks for watching. To learn more about Mocha Pro 2024 and of course Sapphire, visit borisfx.com, where you can also download a trial version. For now, this is John. I'll see you in the next tutorial.